Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to the shed. How are you today? I hope all is well. Everything's great here. Thank you so much everybody who sent your well wishes yesterday and your prayers and all that stuff. Everything's great. Alina had stomach pains for like a week and then started carrying a fever, and Jamie took her to the doctor yesterday and elevated white blood count, and the doctor was concerned that it was appendicitis. So went to the ER and spent many hours there and did lots of tests. It's not appendicitis, not mono, not any of the normal stuff, so it's probably just a stomach virus. We're not 100% positive. We're just keeping an eye on it and her symptoms and all that stuff. So it's okay. It's okay. Not appendicitis. Jamie was freaked out of her mind, scared, like super scared. Today we're talking about terrible movies, and I have a particular... I have a movie I want to talk about. I have a movie story. But before we get into my story, wow, I got a lot of responses, and for the most part, I didn't get any duplicates. Unless you count one. I got one person, Tristan said, one movie, it's called Rubber. Watch it now. It's about a killer car tire. You will never feel like you've wasted your life until you watch this movie. And so that got a response from another friend, Jeff, who said, I thought I liked watching bad movies until I saw Rubber. So maybe that kind of wants... now I want to watch it. But everything else you guys said, I mean, I went down this list, and let's see. Brad Richards, The Cable Guy. I didn't write everybody's name down. We'll just go down the list. The Cable Guy. I think that's the Jim Carrey weird thriller thing. I remember like not enjoying the movie, but I didn't think it was like... I wasn't angry. Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. Yeah, I don't know that one. Mars Attacks. Okay. Avatar Last Airbender. Yeah. It's Shyamalan. What do you want? Battlefield Earth. Okay. Southland Tale. I haven't even heard of any of these movies. I mean, I've heard of them, but Street Fighter: Legend of Chun-Li. Howard the Duck. I remember loving that movie when I was younger. Maybe it is terrible. I need to go watch it again. Some movie about Nazis on the moon. That was Iron Sky. I remember seeing like that was like an indie production or something, and they had done some stuff, and I was like, oh, I want to see that, and then I never did. And that's kind of where I'm headed with this. Adam Brocker said, the worst I ever saw in theaters was The Musketeer. Trailer looked amazing at the time, but it was like a bad made-for-TV movie. And yeah, I remember the trailers for that, and I remember thinking, oh, that movie looks amazing. But I'm one of those people that I am not any shape or form a like cult of the new kind of person. I very rarely go see movies in the theaters. I don't buy new games when they release. I don't buy new anything. Because the majority of stuff, you got to think of it like in terms of laws of averages. Most stuff is average. Just meh. And if I'm buying entertainment, if I'm spending my income on entertainment value, I want a big return. So I'm not going to spend my money that I don't have a lot of for entertainment on hoping that something's good. I would much rather wait a couple months and see what the buzz, how it shook itself out, and then I'll go watch it. I don't have a whole lot of friends who blab on about movies, like just, hey, did you see that thing? And I watched it and it was of this. So I don't worry about spoilers. I love movies. I don't go see them because most of them are terrible. There's really only a few movies every year that are good. And if they're that good, then I will see them eventually. But I don't pay attention to movie sites or anything like that I would get spoilers, I should say, from reading. So I avoided most of these movies because I didn't go see them when they launched, and they turned out to be terrible, and so I saved my money. Never had to go see them. Got a call, so let's listen to this.
Hey, Chevee, it's Wooj. I was calling in.
Hi, Wooj.
Got terrible movies.
Terrible movies. That's what we're talking.
Yeah. So I've got a couple for you here. One that is it'll be interesting because it's kind of conventionally well received and was a box office success at the time. The other one is just plain flat out tacky and awful. And anyway, the first one is Basic Instinct, written by Joe Esterhazy and directed by Joel Schumacher, I think. Or no.
Do people actually watch that movie? When I was a teenager, we just fast forwarded to the Sharon Stone parts. Who watched Basic Instinct for the movie?
Serial husband or relationship.
This guy.
Killer. And
He's the one.
Douglas is the intrepid investigator who cracks the case and takes down this weird, vicious woman. And it is most notable because it's
Sharon Stone's naked.
Sharon Stone leg reveal.
Yeah.
In the middle of the picture, and that's what got everybody
Vagina.
about the movie in more than one meaning of the word. But that movie, I watched it it's been a couple months ago. It's just bad. It's really, really bad. The acting is bad. The plot is awful.
I haven't seen it since I was a teen.
It's
desperate
schlock.
for boobies.
Like, it isn't like slasher movie schlock, but it is just lowest common denominator across the board. It's trite and cliche. It is a crash show from beginning to end. And I have no idea why this still almost has a 70% rating on IMDb. The other movie that I watched, the reason that I mentioned both of these is because I couldn't make it through watching these movies again. I tried a couple of months ago and I just couldn't. The first one was Basic Instinct, and the second one is No Holds Barred, starring Hulk Hogan. And wow, it is just cringeworthy. The writing is also not surprising.
That just sounds terrible.
Worse.
Like, you could have just stopped Ed.
Like, it's misogynistic.
You could have stopped at No Holds Barred starring Hulk Hogan, and I'd have been like, yeah, that movie's horrible.
You can't even watch it and have fun with it like, Running Man or something like that. Some of those great, violent, ultra-violent 80s action movies. It's just bad. Anyway, this is going on a little long, so I'll leave it at that. And have a good show.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
later. Bye.
Yeah, the fact that some of these movies get greenlit really blow my mind. That Basic Instinct thing, that reminds me of a movie that I will rank very high on my list of terrible movies, and that's Brown Bunny. Just don't. The movie basically is a 2-hour-long expose that just doesn't make any sense at all, and at the end, whoever the actor guy is, he's somebody famous, gets a BJ. Like shown on screen by the girl who was in Kids. I think it was Kids. Anyway, okay. Let me tell you my story. And Scott said, hold on, we need music for this. Scott Hanch, you're going with a thin red line, aren't you? Scott knows because Scott was there. Scott is a Navy guy, and I basically lived with him in Hawaii when I was stationed there. So, the Thin Red Line. Let me set the setting. Let me set the stage here. 1998, 99, 2000, I was stationed in Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. And in the summer, July of 98, Saving Private Ryan came out. And it was, unbelievable. Just, blew everything out of the water. It was so good. Around that same time, I had a friend in Hawaii who was the manager of a theater. And so we, saw tons of movies because it was basically free. We would go as a group. Okay? So then Saving Private Ryan happens, and then shortly thereafter, we start getting trailer drops for this movie called The Thin Red Line. And The Thin Red Line is a Terrence Malick film. Now, I knew who Terrence Malick was because I had seen Badlands, and I liked it. And that's the only movie of his I had seen, and it's basically the only movie of his that is worth watching. Let me take that back. He did Badlands. It's this really amazing 1970s film. Go see it. And then he did a couple other films, and then it was like 20 years before he did Thin Red Line. It wasn't 20. It was like 15 or 10. I don't know. Anyway, it was a long time. And then he came back and did this. Everybody was excited about, oh my gosh, Terrence Malick's going to do another film because he's so artsy and whatever. And so we were like, okay, we're going to go see this. This looks amazing. Because they showed these amazing previews of a Pacific Theater film. I was a Marine, I remember this, stationed in Hawaii. It was a World War II Pacific Theater film that followed, essentially, in our minds, chronologically followed Saving Private Ryan. So we're thinking, cool, a war movie on the tails of Saving Private Ryan that was shot really well. The footage that they showed in the preview looked phenomenal, really well filmed. And then they would put up the playbill, and the playbill was like every name at that time in Hollywood was in this movie. All right, Sean Penn, Nick Nolte, Jim Caviezel, Adrian Brody, sorry, can't read my own writing. George Clooney, John Cusack, Woody Harrelson, John C. Reilly, John Travolta. Like, there was more, but those are the notables. And it was like, oh my god, this movie's going to be amazing. It's got everybody in Hollywood. The cinematography looked amazing. Let's do this. So we go to see this movie. And it is like almost, I don't know, it's like 2.5, 3 hours. And it makes zero sense. It is really just a art film that the story that is told in this movie could have been told in about 15, 20 minutes, but instead it's stretched out over 3 hours, excruciating hours, where there would be, you would see a guy and he's on a thing like a log, and then all of a sudden there's a woman in a sundress and a window dancing in like hazy light, and then you see like native children playing in a jungle, and now we're back to the guy on the log, and then they're running up the hill and there's gunfire, and now we're looking at baby birds, and then like what the freak is going with, like, you know, gunshot sounds, and It is the most bizarre piece of crap I've ever seen. And to top it all off, so this movie's long, it's terrible. We actually had somebody in the group, or maybe even more than one, but I remember one in particular, got up and just left. Like, I'm out. Like, an hour into it. And then the movie has, like, at least 2, I think it's 3 false endings, where you're like, the first one hits, and the theater literally sighed, like, oh, thank God. And then that freaking screen came back on, and we're all just like, no, there's more to this? Because there is, if you go read the Wikipedia page, the Thin Red Line will, like, there's this synopsis, and it's like, oh, the guy who was, he was AWOL, and then these guys found him, and then they took him, and then he ends up helping, and then they fight, and you're like, none of that comes through in the watching of this movie. It was based on a book, which apparently the book was okay, or John Malick wouldn't have picked it for a movie, but the movie is horrible. Horrible, horrible. The cinematography is phenomenal. Like, if you just like looking at pretty pictures, you can watch it for that. Just look at pretty pictures. And so I like ranted about this movie to everybody I ever met for the last 17 years it's been on, you know. And I have a friend here in the United States who we used to talk every single day, and I told him about this movie, and I told him about this movie. And so one day he found it in the $5 bin at Walmart, and it just so happened to be like the same year as, or maybe it was a year before, the 10-year anniversary of the movie. And he hadn't seen it. He had just heard me rant about this movie who knows how many times. So he said, listen, we should watch this. And I said, okay. We will watch this for the 10-year anniversary. I will commit to it, and we'll do it. And maybe I've matured enough to appreciate the film. I love artsy stuff. Maybe I have grown into it. And we sat on my couch and turned this thing on, and it was just like, no, this movie is freaking horrible. And his response was, I could see where you're coming from. He's like, I'm not enraged. The reason I was enraged was because this huge list of names, like, literally, you can't see it because it's going to be out of focus, but every name in Hollywood, following Saving Private Ryan, that the context makes this movie even worse. The fact of when it came out, who was in it, who directed it, it's horrible. That's my story. I literally get angry talking about this movie. I don't know why. There are plenty of horrible movies. I've seen many of them, but for some reason, this story is just... This movie can go to hell. Thank you guys for being here, as always. I really do appreciate it. I vastly appreciate your phone calls. I appreciate your tweets and your Facebook messages when I post these silly questions. Thank you so much for activating. That's not what I meant. Thank you so much for taking part in the show, the production. I really do appreciate it. I need more, so please continue to send me your topic ideas to my email, chevee@thedailyshed.com. Also, you can submit anything that you want me to share on the show, your pictures, your videos. If you want to do, I do random facts at the end of each episode. Record a couple of your own, and I'll put those in future episodes. Also, the call-ins. That's always an option. I get an email when you call in, and so I know immediately that there's something to put on the box. So that is 304-602-7433. It's 304-602-SHED. In case you need to remember that. Thank you, as always, for being here. If you like my stuff, please give me a like. Please continue sharing. I would love to hit 15,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're close. We're like 700 and something off. So it's possible. I just need you guys to share and ask your friends to please subscribe and be a part of our fun little community here. I will see you Monday.
Hey, Doc, wait! I want to ask you something.
Today's random fact comes from listverse.com. How many shipwrecks are on the ocean floor? The United Nations estimates that there are over 3 million shipwrecks on the ocean floor. Lost, destroyed, or deliberately sunk, these wrecks are of interest to divers, underwater archaeologists, and treasure hunters alike. That number blows my mind.